The secret plan begins. Keanu Reeves was known for his quiet way of moving through life. He never liked noise, never liked too much attention. Yet deep inside, he had a heart full of warmth, respect, and kindness. One late evening, he sat in a small corner of a cafe in Los Angeles, wearing a cap low over his face so people would not recognize him. Across the table sat Sandra Bullock. They had shared years of friendship, and even though the world thought they were distant, the truth was different. They trusted each other in ways few people could understand. Sandra leaned closer, her voice soft but filled with excitement. "Keanu, it has been so long since we both took a break. I feel like life is pulling me in every direction. Maybe it is time to escape, just for a while." Keanu's eyes held that calm depth people often noticed. He nodded, his voice gentle. "I think you are right. Sometimes you need to step away to see life more clearly, but it has to stay between us. Quiet. No one should know." The idea itself felt like a secret whisper of freedom. They planned a trip, just the two of them. No cameras, no media, no schedules. Only the open road and a hidden flight that would take them away. But even in that moment of joy, a sense of tension hung in the air. Keanu had noticed how Sandra's hands trembled slightly when she sipped her coffee. Something was heavy on her mind. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She smiled, faintly, but it did not reach her eyes. "I am fine. Maybe I just need this trip more than I thought." Keanu did not press further, though inside he felt her unspoken pain. The day of departure arrived. They kept everything simple. No public cars, no loud calls, no shared posts. Sandra wore plain clothes, hair tied back, no makeup, trying to blend with the crowd. Keanu carried only a small black backpack. At the airport, the world around them felt like a rush of voices and footsteps. People dragged suitcases, children laughed, announcements echoed across the walls. The secret of their trip made every sound. "Feel louder, every look sharper," Keanu whispered. "Stay close." Sandra nodded, her heart beating fast. It was not just about the fear of being seen. It was about stepping into something new, something she could not quite name. As they moved toward the counter, Sandra suddenly froze. Her eyes widened, her breath caught in her throat. Keanu followed her gaze and felt his own chest tighten. There, only a few steps away, stood Ana de Armas. She looked graceful yet unsettled, as if the weight of her own journey pressed heavy on her shoulders. In her hand was a passport. In her other, a small bag. She had not seen them yet, but the risk was real. One more glance and their secret trip would no longer be a secret. Sandra whispered, "Why is she here?" Keanu stayed calm, but his mind raced. The air between them grew thick with suspense. The plan they had made so carefully was now hanging by a fragile thread. He leaned closer and said with quiet strength, "No matter what happens, stay true to yourself. Kindness will guide us through this." Sandra tried to breathe slowly, but the shock of seeing Anna in that moment made her wonder if their escape was already broken before it even began. The first minutes of their journey, which were supposed to be light and free, had turned into a storm of questions. Why was Anna at the same airport? Was it pure chance, or was fate weaving something larger than they could see? Sandra's heart was torn. She respected Anna, but she feared what this meeting could mean. She looked at Keanu, who remained steady, his presence like a quiet anchor in chaos. He spoke again, his words carrying a deep calm. "Life puts people in our path for reasons we do not always understand. Maybe this is one of those times. We cannot run from it. We face it with respect." Sandra's eyes filled with emotion. She knew he was right, but knowing it did not make the moment easier. And so the trip that was meant to be a secret adventure began with a test of resilience, humility, and unexpected truth. The journey had only just begun, yet already it was clear. This would not be an ordinary escape. It would be a path filled with choices that revealed who they truly were. The meeting they could not avoid, the moment was tense. Sandra tried to lower her head, hoping Anna would pass by without noticing, but fate rarely listened to human plans. As Anna stepped closer to the counter, her eyes drifted, and then they stopped. She froze. Her gaze locked onto Keanu first, then shifted toward Sandra. For a long second, no one moved. It was as if the busy airport around them slowed down. The sound of rolling suitcases, the echo of flight announcements, the rush of footsteps, all seemed far away. The silence between three familiar faces felt louder than everything else. Anna's lips parted slightly, as though she wanted to say something but could not find the words. Her expression was not angry, not even shocked. It was something more complicated. She looked both surprised and deeply unsettled, as though she had walked into a chapter of life she did not know she was part of. Sandra's chest tightened. She whispered under her breath, "This was not supposed to happen." Keanu, steady as always, gave a small nod in Anna's direction. His voice was calm, gentle. "Hi, Anna. It has been a while." Anna blinked, gathering herself. "Yes, it has." She looked at Sandra, then back at Keanu. "Are you traveling together?" The question hung heavy. It was simple, but its weight pressed on all three of them. Sandra forced a smile, though her heart was pounding. "Yes, we thought we needed some time away. Nothing planned, just quiet." Anna's eyes softened, though there was still confusion in them. She was not just curious. She was searching for meaning. "And you did not say anything, not even a message." Keanu's gaze was steady, respectful. Sometimes silence feels safer. Not because we want to keep people out, but because we do not want to disturb the peace of others. I hope you understand. Anna let out a faint breath, almost like a laugh, but filled with tension. "Understand? I am not sure. I thought we were closer than this." Her words hit Sandra like a quiet storm. She felt guilt rise inside her. The trip was meant to be an escape, but in front of Anna, it suddenly looked like a secret that carried betrayal. The three of them stood there, caught between strangers rushing around them and the truth standing still. Finally, Anna broke the silence. "My flight is delayed. Maybe we should sit down, just for a while." Keanu looked at Sandra. He did not push her, but his calm eyes asked for her strength. Sandra hesitated, then nodded slowly. They moved to a quiet corner of the airport lounge. 3 seats, 3 souls, 1 storm. Anna leaned back, arms crossed lightly. "You know, I came here today because I wanted space too. My mind has been heavy and I needed a change of air. But running into you two, it feels like the universe is laughing at me." Sandra looked down at her hands. "Anna, it was never about leaving you out. It was about finding peace in a world that rarely gives us any. But maybe we chose the wrong way to do it." Keanu's voice carried a weight of humility. "Life often tests us like this, not with grand battles, but with small moments that show who we are. This is one of them. What matters is how we treat each other now." Anna's expression softened, though her eyes still carried hurt. "I respect you both. I always have. But it feels strange to be standing here, as if I walked into a story I did not know was being written." A silence followed, not cold, but heavy with emotions unspoken. Keanu broke it with words that felt like a quiet bridge. "Anna, sometimes friendship is like a river. It flows, it bends, it moves through hidden paths. It may disappear for a while, but it finds its way back. Maybe this is that moment, for us to understand each other again." Sandra felt tears rise in her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief. Keanu's words had always carried calm strength, and even in this storm, they gave her hope. Anna sighed, the tension in her shoulders easing. You always know how to say things that make people think. Maybe I needed to hear that today. The weight in the air began to lift slowly, but just as peace seemed to return, a new announcement echoed through the airport. Attention passengers, Flight 274 to New York has been canceled due to weather delays. Please proceed to the service desk for rebooking. Anna glanced at her ticket and shook her head with disbelief. That's my flight. Sandra looked at her, realizing what it meant. Anna would not be leaving. Not now. Keanu's calm eyes flickered with quiet recognition. The trip that was meant to be only for two had now opened its doors to a third. Sandra whispered half to herself. Maybe the universe is not laughing. Maybe it is telling us something. Anna looked at her, searching her face for truth. Keanu remained silent, his presence steady, his thoughts hidden. And so the journey that began with secrecy had shifted again. What was once a private escape was now shaping into something none of them had expected. And in that moment, they all understood. One thing clearly, the road ahead would test their respect, their resilience, and their kindness more than they had imagined. An unplanned journey together, the announcement about Anna's flight being canceled was more than just an inconvenience. For her, it was a shift in destiny. For Keanu and Sandra, it was a turning point they had not prepared for. Anna looked down, at her ticket, then at the crowded service desk where frustrated passengers already lined up. Her face showed disappointment, but also something else, an uncertainty about whether she should even try to rebook. Keanu, standing with quiet patience, spoke gently. Maybe this delay is not against you. Maybe it is guiding you somewhere different. Anna's eyes searched his face, then shifted to Sandra. Are you saying what I think you are saying? Sandra's heart was caught between hesitation and empathy. She had not planned this. Yet seeing Anna's quiet struggle stirred something inside her. She remembered Keanu's words. Life puts people in our path for reasons we do not always understand. Maybe, Sandra whispered, her voice almost trembling. Maybe we should go together. Anna blinked, stunned. You mean, join you on your trip? Keanu's calm nod confirmed it. Yes. This was supposed to be a secret escape, but sometimes secrets are meant to open, not close. If we can share this time, maybe it will bring peace to all of us. The suggestion was simple, yet it carried weight. Anna sat back trying to process. I do not want to be where I am not welcome. Sandra leaned forward, her tone soft but filled with sincerity. You are not unwelcome. If I am honest, I was scared. Scared that adding someone would take away the calm I was searching for. But maybe calm does not come from being alone. Maybe it comes from being with the right people. Those words touched Anna. Her lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. I never thought I would hear that from you. Keanu remained quiet, his eyes gentle, letting them both speak their truths. After a long pause, Anna finally nodded. All right, I will come, but only if it feels right for all of us. Sandra exhaled, her heart lighter. Keanu gave a small smile, the kind that said everything without words. The three of them made their way toward the gate for their new destination. The world around them was still full of strangers rushing, children crying, and announcements ringing, but within their circle there was a fragile new bond forming. As they waited to board, an old man nearby struggled with his luggage. His hands shook as he tried to lift the heavy bag onto the scale. The staff at the counter looked impatient, but no one moved to help. Keanu was the first to step forward. With one quiet motion, he lifted the bag and placed it gently on the scale. The old man's tired eyes lit up with gratitude. Thank you, young man. No one stopped to help me. Keanu's voice was steady, kind. We should all look out for each other. Anna and Sandra watched the moment unfold. There was no camera, no audience, no reason for Keanu to act except for the simple truth of kindness. Sandra whispered to Anna, "This is who he is. This is why I wanted to be here with him. He makes the world softer." Anna nodded slowly, her earlier doubts loosening. She could feel the strength of humility in the way he carried himself, and it stirred something in her heart. As they finally boarded, the three of them sat together. Sandra took the window seat, Keanu in the middle, and Anna by the aisle. The hum of the plane filled the air as passengers settled in. Sandra leaned her head against the window, her voice low. "I feel like this trip is no longer about escaping. Maybe it is about facing what we have been avoiding." Anna turned to her, curious. "What do you mean?" Sandra hesitated, then spoke with raw honesty. "I have been carrying loneliness. Even when surrounded by people, I feel like no one really sees me. That is why I wanted to disappear for a while. I wanted silence." Anna's eyes softened. She had not expected Sandra to open up like this. "I know that feeling. I think we all do. I have been searching for something too, though I do not know what it is." Keanu's voice was calm, yet strong. "Sometimes the answers we look for are not in silence or escape. They are in each other." The words lingered between them. They were not just passengers on a flight anymore. They were three souls on a shared path, woven together by chance, or maybe by something greater. The plane lifted off, rising into the night sky. Sandra closed her eyes, listening to the steady hum. Anna rested her chin in her hand, lost in thought. Keanu sat between them, a quiet anchor. Outside, the clouds shifted, the city lights below fading into darkness. Inside, a fragile connection was forming, one that promised both conflict and healing ahead. The journey that began as a secret was no longer only about Keanu and Sandra. Now it was about three people, bound by respect, humility, resilience, and the quiet hope that kindness could hold them together. And deep inside, each of them wondered the same question. Was this meeting at the airport an accident? Or was it destiny preparing them for something none of them could yet see? Truths waiting in silence. The flight felt long, though time itself seemed uncertain when hearts carried so many questions. Sandra watched the clouds through the window, her mind replaying the moment Anna had appeared at the airport. What was supposed to be a simple escape had turned into something layered, fragile, and heavy with meaning. When the plane landed, the three of them stepped into a new city. The air was different, cool, crisp, and filled with the scent of rain. The streets were alive with the sound of car horns, distant laughter, and footsteps rushing past. Neon lights reflected on wet pavement, giving the night an almost dreamlike glow. Keanu carried his small backpack. Sandra walked beside him, and Anna followed just a step behind. Their silence was not cold. It was thoughtful, almost protective, as if each of them was afraid to break it too soon. They checked into a small, quiet hotel. The lobby was warm, with soft lamps and the gentle sound of a piano playing in the corner. The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes, handed them their keys with a smile. In the elevator, Sandra finally spoke. "2 rooms or 3?" Anna hesitated, unsure of what to say. Keanu looked at both of them and answered with calm simplicity. 3. It gives each of us space to breathe." Sandra nodded, though inside she felt something stir. Space was good, yet part of her feared that too much space would create distance again. Later that evening, they gathered in the small dining area of the hotel. It was nearly empty, with only a few travelers sitting quietly at scattered tables. A single candle flickered on theirs, casting a soft glow across their faces. Anna broke the silence first. "I still don't understand why you kept this trip secret." Sandra looked down at her glass of water. "Because I was tired of pretending. People always see the smile, the success, the strength. But they don't see the exhaustion. I wanted a place where I could be just Human. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, and she quickly pressed her lips together to steady herself. Keanu reached out, not touching her hand, but letting his presence speak. Sandra needed peace. I wanted to give her that. Sometimes, silence is the greatest gift we can share. Anna's expression softened, but she wasn't finished. And what about me? Did you think I didn't need peace too? The question was raw, honest, and it pierced both Sandra and Keanu. Sandra raised her eyes, filled with guilt. I didn't think about it. Maybe that was selfish of me. Anna's gaze was steady but not cruel. We all carry pain. I thought, we understood each other more than this. Maybe I was wrong. The tension grew heavy. For a moment, Sandra wanted to retreat into silence, but Keanu spoke, his words quiet yet strong. We are not enemies. We are not rivals. We are people, standing at different points in the same road. The world around us celebrates only the bright moments, but it is the shadows that teach us who we are. Maybe this trip is not about running away. Maybe it is about facing the shadows together. The words landed deep. Sandra felt tears she had been holding back finally escape. She quickly wiped them, whispering, I don't want to feel invisible anymore. I don't want to feel like my heart is only mine to carry. Anna, hearing the cracks in Sandra's voice, felt her own walls begin to break. I feel invisible too. Every smile, every light, every applause, it fades when I am alone, and then I wonder if anyone truly sees me. Keanu looked at both of them, his steady gaze filled with compassion. Then maybe this trip is not a mistake. Maybe it is a chance to remind each other that we are seen. Silence followed. But this silence was not heavy. It was healing. Sandra reached across the table, her fingers brushing lightly against Anna's. It was not a gesture of perfect forgiveness, but of recognition. I am sorry, Anna. I should have thought of you. I should have remembered that you carry pain too. Anna's lips trembled as she gave a faint nod. And I am sorry for doubting you both. Maybe I expected too much. Or maybe I was afraid of being left out. Keanu, sitting between them, felt a quiet strength in that moment. For him, kindness was not about grand gestures, but about these small choices, the willingness to see each other clearly, even when it was hard. Yet, as the candle flickered lower, the night reminded them that peace was never permanent. Outside the window, thunder rolled in the distance. The rain began to fall harder, hitting the glass with steady rhythm. Sandra watched the storm and whispered, Every storm looks different, but it feels the same, loud, frightening, endless. Sometimes I wonder if the storms inside us ever end. Keanu turned his gaze toward the rain, his voice deep with quiet wisdom. Storms don't end. They pass. What matters is who stands with you while they pass. Anna stared at the flickering candle, her reflection trembling in the glass. So maybe this trip is not about finding peace. Maybe it's about learning how to stand in the storm. The three of them sat there, their hearts open, their shadows revealed. They were no longer just travelers in a foreign city. They were mirrors of each other, bound by respect, humility, resilience, and the kindness that still managed to glow between them, even in the storm. And though the night grew darker, there was a quiet light that promised their journey was only beginning. The storm outside and within, the rain did not stop through the night. It poured against the windows like endless whispers of warning. Thunder shook the silence, and lightning painted the sky with quick flashes of light. The city outside seemed restless, but inside the hotel, the three of them sat together, their voices carrying truths that had long remained hidden. Sandra finally stood, her body tense, her thoughts swirling. I can't sit here anymore. The storm outside feels too much like the storm inside me. Anna looked at her, concern in her eyes. Then let's step out. Maybe facing it will calm us. Keanu nodded slowly. Sometimes walking through the storm helps us understand it better. So, despite the weather, the three of them grabbed their coats and umbrellas and stepped outside. The streets glistened with rain, neon lights shimmering in the puddles. Few people walked that late at night, but those who did moved quickly, hurrying, to shelter. The air smelled of wet earth and electricity. They walked in silence at first, listening to the rhythm of the rain. Sandra finally broke it, her voice low but filled with unease. You know, people think we live perfect lives, but nights like this remind me that perfection is just a picture, not reality. Reality is messy. Reality hurts. Anna's steps slowed. You're right. People look at us and think we have everything, but they don't see the loneliness, the doubts, the constant need to prove ourselves. Sometimes I wonder if the applause is worth the silence that follows. Keanu walked between them, his shoulders slightly hunched against the rain. His voice carried softly over the storm. Applause fades. Kindness doesn't. It is the only thing that remains when everything else is gone. His words gave both women something to hold on to, even as the storm beat against their umbrellas. As they turned a corner, they noticed a small figure sitting by the steps of a closed shop. It was a boy, no older than 12, drenched in rain. His clothes clung to his skin, his arms wrapped tightly around his knees. He looked cold, lost, and invisible to the world rushing by. Sandra stopped, her heart tightening. He's just a child. Anna knelt down, her voice gentle. Hey, are you okay? The boy looked up, eyes wide with fear. I lost my way. I don't know where to go. Keanu crouched beside him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. You're not alone anymore. We'll help you. The boy trembled, his lips blue from the cold. People walked past me. No one stopped. Sandra felt tears burning her eyes. Well, we're stopping. We see you. They guided the boy back to the hotel, wrapped him in a blanket, and gave him warm tea. His name was Miguel, and he explained that he had been separated from his older brother when they were running for shelter from the storm. As he spoke, Sandra held his hand, her voice steady. You're safe now. We'll find your brother. Anna sat beside him, stroking his hair gently. No one deserves to be left in the storm alone. Keanu spoke quietly, but his words carried deep weight. Sometimes life tests us not through our own pain, but through the pain we see in others. How we respond, that is who we are. The boy's eyes softened, and for the first time that night, he smiled faintly. But even as they comforted the child, the hotel manager approached, his tone sharp. You can't bring him here. This is a private place. Guests only. Sandra rose, her voice firm. He is a child, cold and lost. Humanity must come before rules. The manager frowned. Rules are rules. If you want to help him, take him. Somewhere else. Anna's eyes flashed with anger. How can you turn away someone in need? Is this what you call hospitality? Keanu stepped forward, his calm voice carrying more power than anger. Sometimes rules protect order, but when rules forget compassion, they become chains. If this hotel has no place for kindness, then maybe we don't belong here either. The manager faltered under his steady gaze. The silence that followed was heavier than the storm outside. Finally, he sighed and nodded reluctantly. Fine, just for tonight, but tomorrow he must go. Keanu gave a slight bow of gratitude. Sometimes one night of kindness is enough to change everything. Later, as Miguel fell asleep in one of their rooms, Sandra sat by the window, watching the rain soften. Her voice was quiet but filled with emotion. Maybe this is why our trip changed. Maybe we were meant to find him. Maybe we were meant to be reminded of something bigger than ourselves. Anna leaned on the opposite wall, her arms crossed, but her expression soft. It feels like the universe is speaking. First, it brought us together. Now it brought him. Keanu, standing between them, spoke with gentle wisdom. Life is not about the plans we make. It's about the moments we didn't. Plan that reveal our truth. Tonight we saw our truth. Sandra turned to him, her eyes shimmering with quiet tears. And what truth is that? He met her gaze, then Anna's, his voice steady. That storms do not break us. They show us how strong we can be if we choose kindness over fear. The rain outside slowed, and the night carried a softer silence. The storm had not ended, but something within them had shifted. They were no longer just three travelers. They were guardians of each other, and now of a child who had reminded them of the purest form of humanity. Finding what was lost, morning came gently. The storm had passed, leaving the streets washed, clean and glistening under the soft light of dawn. The city, which had felt heavy and restless the night before, now seemed reborn. Sunlight broke through scattered clouds, painting the world with hope. Inside the hotel room, Miguel stirred in his sleep. His small frame was wrapped tightly in the blanket, his face peaceful at last. Sandra sat beside him, her eyes heavy from a sleepless night, but her heart softer than it had been in weeks. Anna entered quietly, carrying a tray with breakfast. I asked the kitchen for some extra bread and fruit for him. He'll be hungry when he wakes. Sandra smiled faintly. Thank you. He looks like he hasn't eaten properly in days. Keanu stood near the window, watching the sunlight spread across the wet streets. His voice was calm, steady. Today we must find his brother. The boy carries hope in his heart, but it will fade if we don't help him reunite with family. A few hours later, they set out together, Miguel holding Sandra's hand tightly. They walked through busy streets, asking vendors, shopkeepers, and strangers if anyone had seen a boy searching for his younger brother. At first, no one had answers. Disappointment hung heavy on Miguel's face. Every time someone shook their head, his grip on Sandra's hand grew tighter. Anna crouched down, her voice gentle. Don't give up, Miguel. Your brother is looking for you too. We just need to keep walking. The boy nodded slowly, though tears threatened to spill from his eyes. Finally, in a crowded marketplace, a voice broke through the noise. Miguel, the boy's head snapped up. Through the crowd, a teenager, perhaps 16, rushed toward them. His clothes were soaked from the night before, his face pale with worry, but his eyes shone with relief. Miguel cried out, "Brother!" and ran into his arms. The reunion was raw, emotional. The older brother knelt, holding him tightly, whispering words only family could understand. Sandra's eyes filled with tears, her heart aching at the purity of the moment. They found each other, she whispered, as if reminding herself of the power of hope. Anna wiped her own eyes quietly, her voice trembling. This is what it means to be seen. Keanu, steady as ever, gave a small smile. Sometimes the smallest victories teach us the greatest lessons. The older brother, still holding Miguel, turned to them with deep gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for not walking past him like everyone else. I searched the whole night, and I feared the worst. I will never forget this. Sandra placed a hand on his shoulder. Take care of him. He needs you. You both need each other. Anna added softly, never let him feel invisible again. The boy nodded, his voice breaking. I won't. Keanu gave a quiet bow, his words gentle. Kindness is not about what we give. It is about what we protect. Protect each other. As the brothers disappeared into the crowd, silence fell among the three travelers. They stood there, hearts heavy yet strangely lighter, as though something had been healed inside them. Sandra broke the silence, her voice full of reflection. Seeing them, it makes me realize how much I've been running. Maybe not from people, but from the feeling of being needed. I forgot what it means to matter to someone. Anna turned, her eyes soft. You matter, Sandra. More than you know. I think I forgot to tell you that before. Sandra's lips trembled as she whispered. And you matter too, Anna. I should have said it more often. Keanu looked at them both, his presence quiet but powerful. We all run at times, but today reminded us of something simple. We are not meant to carry life alone. The storms, the doubts, the fears. They are easier when we walk together. They walked slowly back toward the hotel, the sun now higher in the sky. The city buzzed with life, but for them, everything felt slower, clearer. Anna glanced at Keanu, her voice thoughtful. You always find the right words. But tell me, do you ever feel lost too? Keanu paused, then gave a small nod. Yes, more often than people think. But I've learned that being lost doesn't mean being broken. It means there's still more road to walk. Sandra looked at him, her heart swelling with quiet admiration. And that's why you hold people together. You make them believe in the road ahead. For the first time in days, the three of them shared a soft laugh together. It wasn't loud, but it was real. A fragile healing sound that promised something stronger was being built between them. That night, as they sat together in the hotel lounge, the city lights glowing through the glass, Sandra whispered, maybe this trip wasn't about escaping at all. Maybe it was about finding what we had forgotten, connection, kindness, and the courage to face our storms. Anna nodded, her eyes bright but calm. And maybe it was about reminding each other that even when we feel invisible, we are still seen. Keanu looked at both of them, his voice carrying the quiet truth of his heart. Sometimes the world breaks us apart, but sometimes it brings us back together in ways we never expected. That is what resilience looks like, not just surviving, but finding meaning in the moments that try to pull us down. The candle on their table flickered softly, echoing the light they now carried within themselves. The choice that changes everything. The days passed quietly after Miguel and his brother disappeared into the crowd. Yet the impact of that moment stayed with them. It was like a stone dropped into a river, sending ripples that kept touching their hearts. Sandra, Anna, and Keanu each carried a new awareness inside, one that made every conversation deeper, every silence more meaningful. But life, even in quiet moments, always brings one final test. On their last evening in the city, they walked together, along a narrow street lined with glowing lanterns. The storm had long passed, and the night air was gentle. The world seemed softer, as if giving them space to breathe before the journey home. Sandra spoke first, her voice quiet but strong. When we arrived here, I thought I wanted to escape everything. I thought peace meant disappearing, but now I see peace isn't about hiding. It's about standing in the storm and still choosing kindness. Anna nodded, her eyes glowing under the lantern light. I came here with hurt in my heart. I felt left out, forgotten. But maybe it was my fear that built those walls, not you. Maybe this trip broke those walls. Keanu listened, his hands in his pockets, his gaze thoughtful. Sometimes the universe brings us where we need to be, not where we want to be. The three of us meeting here, it was no accident. It was a reminder. Sandra tilted her head. A reminder of what? His voice was steady, carrying the quiet truth. That humility, respect, and kindness are stronger than pride, doubt, and fear. We are not perfect, but when we choose kindness, we become whole. As they turned the corner, they noticed a crowd gathered near a busy intersection. A car had broken down in the middle of the road, blocking traffic. Horns blared, people shouted, but no one stepped forward to help the driver, a woman struggling with the heavy machine. Without a word, Keanu walked into the crowd, his calm presence cutting through the noise. He pushed the car slowly, his strength steady, until the vehicle rolled safely to the side. Sandra joined him, her hands firm on the trunk. Anna guided the traffic, signaling cars to stop until the road was clear. The people around them fell silent, watching as three strangers worked together without complaint, without hesitation. When it was over, the woman whispered, tears in her eyes, "Thank you. No one else stopped." Keanu gave his quiet smile. Sometimes it only takes one person to stop, and sometimes three. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the moment stayed. "Walking. Back to the hotel," Sandra whispered. "That's the truth, isn't it? Life keeps giving us chances to choose, to walk past or to stop, to be silent or to speak, to close our hearts or to open them." Anna's voice trembled with emotion. "And tonight, we chose to open them." Keanu looked at both of them, his eyes carrying a quiet strength. This trip was not about the destination. It was about remembering who we are meant to be. Not stars, not faces in magazines, not voices people forget after applause fades. We are humans, and humanity is measured only by kindness. Their final night together was spent in the hotel lounge, just as the first night had been. But this time, there was no storm outside. Only calm. The candle on their table flickered gently, casting warm light on their faces. Sandra leaned back, her voice soft but filled with peace. "When I go home, I don't want to be the same person who arrived here. I want to carry this with me." Anna smiled faintly, her eyes shimmering. "Me too. I want to remember that I am not invisible, and neither are the people around me. Everyone carries storms. Maybe my role is to be someone's calm." Keanu looked at both of them, his words slow and steady. "Then we have learned what we came here to learn. Storms will come again. But now we know how to walk through them together." The three of them sat in silence for a long while, not out of distance, but out of closeness. Sometimes silence was not empty. It was full of everything words could not hold. When the morning came, they packed their bags and left the hotel. The city was waking up, shops opening, children laughing on their way to school. The world moved on, as it always does. At the airport, as they prepared to board their separate flights, Sandra whispered, "This trip changed everything." Anna touched her hand gently. "Not everything, just the parts that needed to change." Keanu gave his calm smile, his voice filled with quiet certainty. "And that's enough." They hugged, not as travelers saying goodbye, but as friends bound by something deeper, an unspoken promise to carry this lesson wherever life would take them. As the planes lifted off into the morning sky, each of them knew one truth. They had come seeking escape, but they left carrying connection. They had entered with storms inside, but they left carrying light. And in the end, it wasn't the secret trip, or the chance meeting, or even the storm that defined them. It was the choice they made, to respect, to forgive, to endure, and above all, to be kind.